This Halloween, ghoul all out with Instacart. Whether you're hunting for the perfect costume, eyeing that giant bag of candy, or casting spells with eerie decor, we've got it all in one place. Download the Instacart app and get delivery in as fast as 30 minutes. Plus, enjoy $0 delivery fees on your first 3 orders. Offer valid for a limited time. Minimum $10 per order. Service fees, other fees, and additional terms apply. Instacart, bringing the store to your door this Halloween.
Achieving a gorgeous grin from home isn't a total mystery with Bite Clear aligners. Just don't be surprised if all of your sleuthing friends start asking, "What's your secret?" Begin by ordering your at-home impression kit today for only $14.95. Bite Clear aligners are doctor-directed and delivered to your door. Treatment costs thousands less than braces. Plus, they offer flexible financing, accept eligible insurance, and you can pay with your HSA FSA. Get 80% off your impression kit when you use code WONDERY at Byte.com. That's BYTE.com. Start your confidence journey today with Byte. Hey, Prime members, have you heard? You can listen to your favorite podcasts ad-free? Good news! With Amazon Music, you have access to the largest catalog of ad-free top podcasts included with your Prime membership. To start listening, download the Amazon Music app for free or go to amazon.com/ad-free-podcast. That's amazon.com/ad-free-podcast to catch up on the latest episodes without the ads.
All right, so obviously we need to touch on Burning Man, but listeners, I want you to know that when I texted Chris this morning, I assume we will be talking about Burning Man. What else? And he responds with, Britney is getting tattoos. And I laughed so hard at the text for some reason, I almost drove off the road. I couldn't.
Aaron Bagwell and I are very concerned. We just send text messages back to each other saying, this is really bad. I'm scared. Oh no. Like things like that. We're just sending back and forth to each other, like attached to video clips of Britney Spears getting a snake on her back. Like she already has a tramp stamp. So like that area of her body is already, spoken for. So she's getting like a lower spine tattoo of a snake. Right. I think there's more happening. She's at some random man's apartment. It's not great.
Okay, a couple of things. First of all, if you're new to our podcast, you should know that Britney Spears getting tattoos around here constitutes world affairs.
Yes,
just so
it
you
is.
Know, it's a front page story.
I'm sorry, it is a front page story.
You needn't apologize here. You needn't apologize here. But the even funnier thing is that when I'm driving and I hear my British version of Siri say, Britney is getting tattoos, it's a life or death situation for me to keep on the road without laughing to death, literally.
It's concerning. It's scary. She's just like, as I said, like we ain't seen nothing yet. Like she's just like getting tatted up. She's with random weird men. Like that's the thing I'm most concerned about is that she's now like with people because she's like never been able to be around people for like the last like 20 years. So now that she's just with like these randos and I'm nervous. That's all.
I can see what's happening with us as well, which because, we have an agreement that we're not going to fix someone on this podcast who appears to be mentally unwell, which she clearly does. So what I think we're doing is just bringing her up in the intro every week until she's medicated, and then we can put her on the main podcast.
This is Britney watch. Like this is, you know what I mean? Like, like remember the South Park episode about her?
It's 2009. We're a shaved head away from something cataclysmic. I hear you.
It's in the South Park episode. They literally go Britney watch. And then it was just updating you every day on what was happening with her. And that's literally clitorally what we're doing here.
So when's the book coming out?
I don't know.
Britney's book.
I think she's delaying it so she can write a chapter about getting divorced.
You mean so she can have someone write a chapter about it?
Yeah,
I mean, we don't even think, honestly, that she's...
No, Dominic, the worst part of it is I kind of think that she's writing it herself, which means it's going to be like one paragraph long and it's going to be 700 pages and it's one paragraph.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like a series. That sounds like 800 pages of a drinking game.
That's what I'm saying.
That's like every time she says this, do this.
like, sure, I think like, oh, haha, like someone else is writing it for her. But then there is a part of me where I'm thinking that she's like, no, I'm going to write it myself. And every single person's like, of course you are. Like every person will, I'm going to buy it if it's one paragraph long and 700 pages.
We're going to buy it either way. If it's a 1,000-page book, but there's only words on 2 pages in the middle, we're still buying it just to contribute to her, to thank her for
her service,
all the conversation that she's given us through all of these years. I can't wait to read her book. Also, you know, Barbara Streisand's book is coming out, and apparently it has been edited down to just shy of 1,000 pages. Is it the most Barbara Streisand thing you've ever heard? It's like, if I'm going to write a book, it's going to be the biggest fucking book in history.
And Dominick, I'm leafing through every single page.
Of course, I'm going to take off from work. I can't read that quickly. I can't read 1,000 pages in a weekend. And this is not something I'm skimming. I'm going to read every word. I'm going to highlight every piece of self-indulgent Barbara bullshit in this book. I'm making t-shirts. We're putting it on mugs. I'll be quoting it through the holidays, but I cannot wait for this book. I hope she spills like truckloads of tea. I really do.
If she doesn't read the audiobook, that's a crime against humanity. Because I obviously, by reading it, I do obviously mean that I will buy the audiobook and listen to it. But like, I need her to read the whole thing.
What I will do is buy the audiobook and the regular book and just read along with the regular book while she reads the
like
audiobook.
A guided reading. Yeah, like a guided reading.
Yeah. That's how I want to experience
that. Great idea.
That's how I want to experience it. Also, if this book is close to 1,000 pages, if she doesn't start recording it now, it won't even be ready for Christmas of 2024. No. She needs to get on the stick.
She should have already done it. Like, it should be done.
She has been famous for 60 years and does not live in the shadows. I mean, she is still a fully famous I'm not even, it's hilarious that it's 1,000 pages, but it's not surprising. I mean, you want her to talk that much shit.
Are we going to get a chapter about the mall in her house?
I hope so.
Like, do we think that that's going to happen or no? Because weirdly, I feel like she's going to be like, no, I don't need to tell anyone about this.
No
when
way.
In reality, that's all I want to hear about.
There are going to be things that she gets like testy about discussing, which we'll want to know about. I don't know what those
her
things
dog
will be. Some stuff, maybe the controversial stuff she'll stay away from, but I don't know, 1,000 pages. She's done so much great work. She's had some very back in the day, high profile lovers, a string of them. So I want to hear about all of those. I want to hear about her son. You know, I told you this, right? I encountered and met her son at a bathhouse many years ago.
Yes, you did. You did.
For those of you who don't know what a bathhouse is, it's like a gym that is only for men and
that all fuck each other.
Right. Well, yeah. Rather than work out at this gym, you just get pink eye. That's pretty much what happens at a bathhouse.
Oh, you get pink eye and you get warts too if you don't wear your shower shoes.
I mean, pink eye is pretty much, that's in the goodie bag when you leave a bathhouse. But you just got to hope it's worth it when you go in. All right, now I want to talk about Burning Man. Do you know anyone who's at Burning Man or who went this year?
I peripherally do. Is that even a word? But
sure.
But not like
clitiferally. Yes, it is.
Clitiferally do. But I wait. P.S. You know everyone's obsessed with chlamydia, by the way. Just as an aside.
Oh wait,
everyone's dying about chlamydia, and so am I, and so are you. Like, hilarious. Continuing on, I don't have anyone. No, I don't have like a boots on the ground at Burning Man. Do you?
I do. I have several people who are there, all of whom are posting from there. And I always thought that the thing about Burning Man was like, I'm off the grid and that it wasn't even possible to communicate with the outside world. But
well, because you're in a desert.
Yeah, but there are many people posting from there, and they're all saying, "Look, everything is fine. We're okay. We just can't come home." I'm like, "Okay, then everything's not fine. If you're stationary, then it's a disaster." That's
look at the Fire Festival. People were like having a great time, even though they were like, "Oh, we might die." Like they were like still drinking and having a great time. Was it terrible? Yes. Did that affect them? No.
I heard I heard a woman on the radio this morning. It was
Here
a
we go.
radio interview on, of course, 1010 Wins, which is the only radio station I would ever
That's
listen
so
to.
literally so you.
Oh, it's literally like the 1970s. Like my grandmother had it on a transistor radio in her dining room, and I won't stop listening to it ever.
Yeah.
But they had a young woman, and she was literally talking like this from Burning Man. Like, it just wasn't what we expected. And I heard her voice, and I just thought, I'm so glad this happened to you specifically, ma'am.
That's horrible.
Not my friends, but I heard her voice. I'm like, your voice is not what that festival's supposed to be about.
No.
At all.
One, Hassan said that they're like, people are protesting that like people are taking private jets there.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're like, the whole point of this is to like address climate change and like,
Right.
like not be off the grid, as in like don't use electricity and or like anything that has a motor, and you're taking a private jet here. So it's like funny that it's, well, I mean, and not for nothing, it's like nothing can live anymore that's not then becomes commercialized, because at the end of the day, like they want our money, like like they just want us to pay for everything. They don't want it to be anything. They want to make money off of it. So that's like its own problem. But yeah,
when people find themselves in trouble in a situation where they are removed from society and where there is no electricity and stuff, all I think to myself is, girl, do you know we've evolved where you don't have to be in that situation? You can have neighbors and grocery stores and generators and outlets. It's like, why are you putting yourself in a position where that could happen? You know what I mean?
Well,
at least if I lose electricity in my home, I can go to my neighbors or scream or walk to a store. But like it happens, like, why do it? Why do that?
Well, did you see the family that was like trying to live off the grid? They all died of starvation. Did you see that on people's Instagram?
Don't speak that on me so everyone knows I'm a horrible person. I will laugh at that.
People's Instagram is outrageous. If you follow People Magazine's Instagram, you're getting everything from like...
What is talking about the 1970s? You and Rebecca keep bringing up People Magazine all the time. I'm going to have to
my news source.
To it. I can't.
It's my news source. I'm sorry to tell you.
I can't.
You get everything again from celebrities falling to like horrible murder, like stories that are beyond reality, like
right,
just so horrific.
I'm getting the updates from them.
It's wild. Like you're getting everything, and it's never anything you actually care about ever at all.
No, but I mean, it really is about births, deaths, and falls. That's what that whole magazine is about.
Or you're getting like, here's this random person in Iowa that this happened to, and it's like, couldn't care less about this.
There's always an untold struggle. That's their favorite headline.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Sandra Bullock's untold struggle. I was like, why is she telling it here?
The only reason I know anything about Sandra Bullock, her husband dying, except like the Blind Side controversy is people.com. Yeah.
They are literally your lifeline to the world.
Yes.
Wait, did you say your mother, you have a Long Island Iced Tea story via Mother DeRosa? Is this
I'm
true?
just going to hit you with this really quickly, and then we should get to our guest.
Okay. Is this going to make me gasp as much as the Off the Grid family that all died and then I laughed at them in front of our 2.4 million listeners? Okay.
It's going to be similar. P.S. All my mom does is text me how funny you are and not me. And so just FYI.
Well,
she's like, Dominick is so fun. She's so used to me, so she's like, whatever.
I feel like my parents are the same way. Honestly, if I hear one more person, by the way, tell me that Gotcha Knows from the Ariana episode is the funniest thing they've ever heard, I'm like, are you listening to me on this at all either?
Well, no, but
it's not a partnership; it's a competition. We always knew this would happen. Now we're going to match each other text for text.
Well, and the other thing is like, again, our friends are like, yeah, like I know all the fucking jokes you're going to make because I know everything about you. Whereas like me to your friends and you to my friends are these like new people, you know, they're getting a new experience, which I think is nice.
We're hilarious to people who don't know how stupid we are.
Yes.
But once, but a year into this podcast, they'll probably just say it's stupid and turn it off.
Yeah.
But before you do that, please tell 3 other friends to listen.
But again, you're like a god to everyone in my life now, basically.
And all anyone does when they come to my shows is want to meet you now. Yeah. So that's pretty much the end of both of our careers.
Okay, so she goes, so Christopher, I have my own Long Island Iced Tea story. Do you want to hear it? And I said, dear God, I'm extremely nervous to hear it, but yes. Well, when your father and I were newly married, we would go to the original Quaker Steak and Lube for date night. We would get a bucket of wings, a lube burger, in parentheses, best burger, all capitals, ever.
You've said lube twice and I haven't said anything. Keep going on. You're welcome.
I'm proud.
Go on.
I'm proud of you. ... And then she writes Don, 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 as in like dun, dun, dun. ... Our signature drink, a Long Island iced tea.
Oh.
So when you think about it, the fruit doesn't fall that far from the tree, is what she said.
No. Well, first of all, your mother called you a fruit, which I think is
its own thing.
Borderline offensive. The other thing is that it is genetic. That explains the mystery. Why would you drink the Long Island iced tea? And it's because it is literally in your blood. It's been passed down by Mother DeRosa.
And know that the Quaker Steak and Lube is like a gas station that they turned into a restaurant.
Okay, so is this a chain place? This is not.
It's a chain in Pennsylvania. I grew up 20 minutes away from the original one. That was a real gas station and body shop that they turned into a restaurant. And then they have franchised them out to like be just like your Outback Steakhouse-esque kind of.
I feel like I was just born. So now I'm looking this up online.
Yes.
And Quaker Steak and Lube, their website is thelube.com.
Uh-huh.
What's in a Long Island iced tea at a place called The Lube? What did they put poppers in there? Is that the topper?
Know.
Like, what is this?
But imagine my parents.
Oh, this is like Carl's Jr. level, triple burger,
and it's like
bacon cheese.
It's
nonsense.
like race
this
car.
Looks delicious.
It's like race car themed. Do you know what I'm saying?
My God. Lube Normus steak burgers. Listeners,
Yeah.
please go to thelube.com. If you don't, am I new? Why have I never heard of this?
Because why would you? You've never been in a place that had these.
Oh, there's a part of oh, good Lord. I'm too gay and disgusting to look at this. There's a section of the menu called Kids Lube Cruisers. Come on. Who runs that? The Catholic Church? Come on.
If you order onion rings, they come like on an antenna that you would remember when cars had antennas.
Mm-hmm.
It like comes on an antenna that you eat the onion rings.
They're hanging on. Oh
Yes.
my God.
Like
That's
in a stack.
Great idea.
And you can get like a thing of beer and it comes in like a huge like tube called a lube tube where you then like pour it out of the tube into your own glass. This is going to be brought up again. They're going to be a sponsor before the end of this year. They should be. And
I just want to keep saying thank you, thelube.com, over and over again.
And I need to tell you that when you're going to sign off and never speak to me again when I say this to you. But when Dale Earnhardt Sr. died, I was in a Quaker Steak and Lube and we were watching it on the television and I experienced that death in a place that was race car themed where every single person in the restaurant was glued to the television already. And then that happened.
I don't know.
I
guess
you don't need to respond.
That's like being in Stonewall when Judy Garland died, is what I'm saying.
Yes.
Were people passing out? Were there tears?
I remember it being a big thing, and I was like a little child, and I remember being like, wow, this is a humongous deal. Like that this is a big deal, and I'm in this place that like is basically a shrine to this person, and they're dead. I don't know what I'm sorry that I had to drop that atomic bomb right on your face, but
I don't know what I mean, and you have to keep innuending until we're done with it, don't you?
Yes. I knew that the lube in general was going to really give you a thrill, so.
The lube has given me a thrill, if I had a nickel. The lube has given me a thrill, and I'm going to peel this bomb off of my face, and I'm really going to marinate in it for the rest of the day and figure out how the hell we're going to get Quaker State and Lube to be a sponsor of this podcast. And that's it.
Yeah.
That is this food. Oh my God.
They have a wing challenge that my sister's done like multiple times where you have to sign a waiver to like, cause the wings are so hot. Like it's that kind of place. You know what I'm saying?
It is. Oh yeah, there it is. There's the shoe. What's your shoe? The Scoville heat unit. Just like on Hot Ones. I'm reading the menu and it goes from 90, which is original barbecue sauce, all the way up to 800,000, something called the Atomic Scorpion.
Yes. My sister's
sounds unhealthy.
Times. She has her picture on the wall at one of them.
Your sister does?
And she used to work at a Quaker Steak and Lube by my parents' house.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
She's literally, your family
We're
is
lubed up.
You're lube royalty at this point. This is fantastic.
You know that my sister and I did the Hot Ones challenge, right?
No, I did not know that.
I bought my sister like the entire box of hot sauces for Christmas,
My
and then
friend
on Christmas
did this as well.
we did like we
that's
made
great.
our own version of Hot Ones and like I shot it on my iPhone, and I have 3 camera coverage on iPhones, and me and my sister like did it to each other and asked each other questions and ate all of them.
I have a friend who did it. She said it was super fun.
I've never like touched the footage, but I should. Should I release it as a Patreon thing once we have a Patreon? Yes.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
That's something people want to see.
Your whole family now, they're really stepped up. Your mother with the text, your sister with the lube. This is fantastic. We're really getting to know the DeRosas, as well as we were getting to know the Pupas earlier in the season about their television habits. Like, this is great. We're bringing them to the forefront. I love
into our
this.
lives. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, we could blab on all day, but I feel like we should get to our guest.
So we should mention, before we introduce our guest, we are speaking today about Lea Michele. And as ever, a timely podcast, The Fixing Famous People, because just this weekend, Funny Girl closed and
shuttered its doors.
It did. And that show ended in the black because of Lea Michele being in it for a full year.
Which is so sad because it's like they finally recouped their money and then they're like, well, time to close up shop.
Isn't that strange? Is that the system with Broadway? It's like you make 50 cents and you're like, whew, okay, we made it back. Now we close.
Well, which is
she couldn't do another 6. What's she going to do that's bigger than this?
No, exactly. But maybe like the sales were down. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know. I do know that during her curtain call, she did do like she did a reprise of My Man. Alone on stage. Do you think the whole cast?
Lord.
Do you think the whole cast, like she was out there alone? Do you think the cast was backstage going, "Fuck you"?
They were just getting out of their costumes. They were like, "I don't even want to do this." She can't.
They were already at Joe Allen. They were like, "Lock the door from the inside."
Yeah.
That said, let's get to this week's guest.
Ready to start talking to your kids about financial literacy? Meet Greenlight, the debit card and money app that teaches kids and teens how to earn, save, spend wisely, and invest with your guardrails in place. With Greenlight, you can send instant money transfers, set up chores, automate allowance, and keep an eye on your kids' spending with real-time notifications. Join millions of parents and kids building healthy financial habits together on Greenlight. Get your first month free at greenlight.com/Wondery. That's greenlight.com/Wondery.
Bombas makes the most comfortable socks, underwear, and T-shirts.
Warning, Bombas are so absurdly comfortable you may throw out all your other clothes.
Sorry, do we legally have to say that?
No, this is just how I talk, and I really love my Bombas.
They do feel that good. And they do good, too. One item purchased equals one item donated.
To feel good and do good, go to bombas.com/Wondery and use code WONDERY for 20% off your first purchase. That's BOMBAS.com/Wondery and use code WONDERY at checkout.
Most of you probably met him like I did while watching Luann do her cabaret on Bravo's The Real Housewife of New York City. He is a theater expert. He is a podcast host. He is Mr. Ben Rimalower. Welcome.
Thank you so much for that hilarious intro.
We needed someone to like really have Broadway like on lock to unpack this client with us today.
I mean, I've been in the Lea Michele game since long before all the Gleeks were ever aware of her. Before they were born, honestly.
Yeah. Wow. Ben, please explain to people your podcast, Giants in the Sky.
It's called Giants in the Sky, How Sondheim and Lapine Went into the Woods. Hey, Broadway. It's on the Broadway Podcast Network. It's about the making of the original production of the iconic musical Into the Woods. And I talk to actors and creatives of all stripes who worked in any way, shape, or form on the landmark original production and its television broadcast in the late 80s. And for so many people that it was a sort of gateway to musical theater and Sondheim and all that stuff, it's, I think, really interesting to get into the minutia of how it came together because it was all pre-internet. So nowadays, if anything like this major in theater was going on, there'd be a million articles about it and playbill.com, and people would be posting about it on social media, and there'd be all kinds of like, sponsored Instagram things and all that shit.
Like
and
marketing, Barbie movie level shit. Yeah.
Yeah, and this was all just kind of like in the dark. And there were, Betty Buckley was actually the witch before Bernadette Peters and got fired at the workshop. And like, people don't even know this stuff, and so I'm getting to the bottom of it, pun intended.
I saw Into the Woods 3 times in its original production. I was in high school and I was not out of the closet, and I just kept bringing girlfriends with me to see it because it was fantastic. I saw it first with Bernadette. It was, magical, obviously, like a once in a pairing with a role and an actor, and it's just fantastic. Then I saw it with Felicia Rashad as the witch. I have tried to erase that from my memory unsuccessfully. I so miscast. Because
are you a fan of hers, like outside of Into the Woods?
Yeah, I've seen her in other Broadway productions. She's and really an iconic Broadway actress, a multi-toning winning. I did not like her as the witch. I don't know why. Maybe it was a little too in her Claire Huxtable era, and I just couldn't separate it. But I just remember being very unsatisfied. But then, I don't want to be controversial here. Then I saw who I thought was the best of the 3 witches that I saw was Nancy Dussault, who was
Too Close for Comfort, honey. Muriel.
And I have to, like, everyone who didn't see her in it thinks that I am insane for saying that she was better than Bernadette, but there was something about her performance. It was so sultry and sexy and wicked. I mean, she was so good.
She's gonna be on the pod. I'm obsessed with her because she is such like she straddles history. She replaced Mary Martin in the original Broadway production of The Sound of Music.
Wow.
Nancy Dussault did?
Yes. And then she replaced Bernadette Peters in Into the Woods in 1989. I mean, it's like she really was like across the eras and was a TV star in between. And of course, people today are just like Nancy Dussault, but
of course, and was so fantastic in this. And I'm sorry for the tangent, but anytime I get a chance to mention that, I mention it. And I even love when someone's like, "Who's Nancy Dussault?" And I'm like, "Sit down.
Teach your children well."
Yeah, just a great performance. But I can't wait to listen to your podcast. Now, Lea Michele. Born in the Bronx, by the way. And also, we love to highlight middle names. Michelle is actually Leah's middle name, and her last name is...
Give it to me.
Sarfati.
No.
Okay.
Yeah. Lea Michele Sarfati. She is the only child of Edith, who's a retired nurse, and Mark, who's a real estate agent and a delicatessen owner. Her mother is Italian with ancestors from Rome and Naples, while her father is a Sephardic Jew with Judeo-Spanish speaking ancestors from Thessaloniki, Greece.
Gorge.
That, of course, is courtesy of Wikipedia.
Yes.
Who's sponsoring today's episode.
Yeah, always.
I mean, where do we begin?
Probably with her dad owning a deli, because that's trouble from the jump.
Yeah, from the absolute jump. So, Ben, you have met Lea Michele when you were the bartender on Watch What Happens Live, and Lea Michele was, co-guesting with Teresa Giudice. Is that correct?
Correct, yes.
What was she like?
Well, first of all, how did you get the gig to bartend on Watch What Happens Live? We can't gloss over that.
In addition to my work with the Countess on Real Housewives of New York City, I also have done a lot of work producing and directing audiobooks for Simon & Schuster. A lot of them most of them having nothing to do with Housewives. I worked on Hillary Clinton's book and lots of fiction and all kinds of stuff. But I worked on a couple of books with Bethany and a couple of books with Teresa. And the Teresa book, the first one I did with her when she was fresh out of prison, Turning the Tables, they covered on Real Housewives of New Jersey. Then I went on Watch What Happens Live with Teresa when she was promoting a book.
Ooh, fantastic.
Wow.
That was fun.
So was Lea Michele nice to you?
Super nice to me. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's good. That's 1 point in her corner.
Yeah. I'm not like a Lea hater. I think I'm actually like the perfect person for this episode.
Because you're like not wanting to destroy her.
No, I don't. But I'm not also like not wanting to destroy her.
Yeah,
I feel like I might be the only person on earth who's like completely objective and just like calling balls and strikes about Lea Michele. That's a sports reference. Did you
notice us not know what you were saying? Yeah.
Hey Siri, what was any of that?
Oh, Jesus.
Siri, of course you responded, you bitch. Shut up. We're all worried about AI taking over the world. Siri literally, she can't spell the word
literally,
either.
excuse you.
Literally.
No.
Literally.
Okay, so I mean, where do we even start? Okay, so Ben, where did you like first find Lea Michele? Like she was been a Broadway person since she was like a little kid, right?
Yeah, that's right. And a very important musical to at least people of my generation was the 1998, well, it was the 1998 Tonys. It might have opened in 97, the musical Ragtime, based on the E.L. Doctorow book and with a score by Lynn Ahrens and Stephen Flaherty, who wrote like Once on This Island and Seussical and lots of other things. And it was one of Audra McDonald's first Tony Awards, and Brian Stokes Mitchell and the late, great Marin Mazzie, and a really wonderful cast. And as the little girl, Lea Michele, I listened to that cast recording when I was like a senior in college, backwards and forwards. And she, and I saw the show 4 times on Broadway with her, at least a couple of them. And I remember thinking she was wonderful. A child performer who was not like an automaton, but who could really act and really sing and hold the stage with these great, great talents. But Ragtime was a brilliant, like old school American musical. And it was so epic. The story about America and civil rights and racial integration. And it was such incredible music. And the most amazing performances, the most thrilling staging, and it was just so elaborate with like a factory and like a Model T Ford and fireworks and all this crazy shit. And Lea Michele held her own on that stage. And I mean, and I can still, remember the parts on her cast recording that I loved this little girl singing. And I started off the journey of Lea Michele 100% pro Lea Michele.
Well, and it's also like from what you're saying, it's like it was a very just like this is what theater is, kind of a musical. Like this is American
what you want
theater.
it to be, and
yeah,
sure, it should be.
And so when the caliber is that high when you're so young, it's like it set her up for success to then go on to be in Spring Awakening and all these other musicals that she like is known for now today still, right?
Yeah. Well, I don't know, maybe not. I mean, a lot of kids that had little roles like that then didn't translate to adult success. I mean, people like Andrea McArdle, who was iconic as Annie in the original cast of Annie. I mean, her singing in Annie is as special and brilliant as Jennifer Holliday in Dreamgirls or Patti LuPone in Evita. I'll take that to my grave. But Andrea McArdle's
wow, you almost just put me in mind with that. Wow.
But she's been essentially kind of, I don't want to say useless, but unused since then. And, so that easily could have happened to Lea Michele, who like, I'm so gay. I remember her being like, America's our shtetl now. Oh, mechayech leben. But like, it's not like she sang the original Tomorrow, she could have been forgotten.
Wait, was that one of her lines in Ragtime?
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh my God. We're with an encyclopedia, Dominic.
I mean, for real.
It's a narrow encyclopedia. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't even really know Spring Awakening. I just remember being pissed that I wasn't on the side of the house where you could see Jonathan Groff's ass.
That's the first where I ever heard her name was the first time I remember was in conjunction with Spring Awakening.
Yeah.
And if you go back,
although she had already been in Les Mis, I mean, as one of the millions of replacement young Cosettes. Or one of those parts.
If you go back and look when Spring Awakening was opening, there's like them on the Rosie O'Donnell show singing a song. And then at the end, she's like, how old are you? And she's like 17. And then she's like, she's so young. Like Rosie's like, they're so great. And it's like Lea Michele, who then becomes a humongous celebrity like a couple years later.
Yeah. But they kind of were, I mean, the Spring Awakening cast that had that energy of like the original cast of Rent, where it was kind of like the show was so hot and cool and like
Glee happens.
Yeah.
They all are launched into once in a lifetime amount of fame so quickly. She
Right.
becomes a household name basically overnight.
Right.
Yeah.
Everyone loves her voice. She's so talented. Like season 1 of that show is, in my opinion, still like such good TV.
100%. And also did not come out of the gate with a bad reputation. I mean, you know, the character of Rachel Berry was, you know, as annoying as someone who is that talented in high school would be to people who
Yes.
are not also talented. But I think people, the first season of Glee saw Lea Michele playing a role, knew that the character was annoying, but also knew who that person was in their high school if they were not already the Rachel Berry in their high school. Very relatable. And people liked Lea Michele because she played the role well.
Can I offer an alternate perspective?
Please.
Uh-oh.
Because see, like, I'm the guy in high school who liked those girls.
Right.
Like the bitchy, talented musical theater girl that everybody else thought was too much. I thought she was fabulous. I would hang out with her after school at her house and like puff her up, telling her how she was going to be the next Patti LuPone. You know?
Absolutely.
AKA Chris Colfer's character in the show.
100%.
Yeah.
And I would watch Glee and I was coming in team Lea.
Sure.
And yet, I wouldn't say I was hating on her season 1 of Glee, but she was immediately not someone I was into. I liked all the other girls more. I liked all the boys more. She continually was like at the bottom of my list of the performances on that show.
Because of the performances or because of her character?
I felt that Lea Michele was giving of herself in that role. Right. Maybe that's unfair, but I don't see her as a transformational actor. I don't think she's like a Meryl Streep, you know.
Well, she said when she had like gotten, I remember listening to this in an interview that she did, when she went to go audition for the role, she had gotten in a car accident like right outside of the studio and then just like abandoned her car and went to like not be late. And she was like, I was literally picking pieces of glass from my like windshield out of my hair while I was like auditioning. And then on top of that, she was so rattled from the thing that she started to like, something would happen and the piano player like went off or something. Like he didn't know what he was doing. And she started to be like, no, we must go back to the beginning. I'm so sorry. Like, and started to kind of like do this quote unquote act, which I don't think was an act, being like, I need to do this again. And they started dying laughing. Like she was like, no, I must take this from the top. Like it's too important for me to not sing this correctly. And like, they were like, this is the character. Like you are the character. Like, and it's like, and I think she in retrospect is like, yeah, I like, oh, haha. And I'm like, no, you were being yourself. And that was exactly what you're saying. You were being yourself. And they were like, wow, this is so funny. Cause this character you're doing right now is so insufferable. And she's like, yeah, this character that I'm doing that definitely isn't me at all is so insufferable.
But that's what makes her great in Funny Girl.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
Well, what she didn't mention in that story was that the car accident that she was in was her fault, and she'd killed 6 people right before the audition, and her blood pressure didn't even go up. She just said, I want this fucking job, and she got it. Brava. And she had to kill a family to do it.
I'm like fine with that.
She's in like Black Swan. She's like, it's my turn.
There, you know, the way that young people have been able to like territorialize Broadway nowadays, I think is because of a generation. If you didn't have Glee, you wouldn't have Riverdale. You know, that wouldn't have
true.
The interest was brought to them by Ryan Murphy.
Yeah,
wow. Our God.
Yeah.
But so all this to say, Glee's great, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Like you know, and it's a perfect role for her because she's like, I'm such a good singer. And like, I can do this exact character that is exactly like myself, basically in high school. Like this is who I was in high school. So I'm going to just play myself in high school and sing all the songs I've ever wanted to sing and like, just knock it out of the fucking park because her voice is unparalleled.
I don't feel that her voice is unparalleled. I think she has a really terrific voice.
But who else is doing what she was doing and looking like she was 15?
I don't know. To me, her voice is like very like every girl that played Elphaba.
Okay.
I think what she does in Funny Girl
that's still praise though. I mean, to even be able to do what she does, is pretty.
I just don't consider her like what makes her special in Funny Girl is it's the determination that she's gonna use up all the air in her body and fucking like bring the house down. You know,
Yeah,
she's
she
a
had no
beast
choice.
on that stage. And that it's like very few times you see someone, you know, Kristen Chenoweth does that, Patti LuPone, Bernadette Peters. Obviously, it's what Barbara Streisand did that like changed the world in Funny Girl. It's what all the old school people used to do. And what she's doing there that the Elphabas don't do. And it's partly just the material, because in you know, when you're going like, you don't have the chance as when you've got these sort of lower notes of the old school show tunes, they get to show their balls. And Lea Michele took that and like really like balls to the wall.
Mm-hmm.
And she has to like prove every day, like, you guys fucking allowed me to be in Funny Girl and I'm gonna show you why.
Totally.
Like, she's just like hanging on like for
She
dear
had
life.
to. Yeah.
Yeah. Had it, honestly, if she had gotten to do the part 4 years ago with Ryan Murphy the way she originally wanted to before it all fell apart, I think that she would have gotten bad reviews and the show would have been a flop. And I think she needed this sort of like comeback story.
Yeah, like drama. Yeah.
The drama with
You're
fucking
very right.
I think that's what gave her that like ferocity that crossed the line.
It really, well, because it was like, we don't want to have to give this to you, but you're the only person that can do it.
I mean,
Yeah.
it
You know
what I
felt
mean? Like,
that
it's
way.
that kind
It
of a
did.
thing.
Yeah.
Like, we made a mistake. We're coming crawling back to you,
Yeah.
is what it felt like.
Yeah. But I think if she had done it the first time, people would have been like, it's more of the shit from Glee. She just seems like another Elphaba.
Well, and they would have, but they also they weren't going to take the chance on her because of her reputation. Like the reputation she then garnered after like the late seasons of Glee. No one wanted to touch her, which kind of is what I want to start bringing up is like,
yeah,
it starts to come out in the rags that like she is so hard to work with. She's mean to everyone. All of her co-stars, like in different ways, drop hints that she's like a monster on the set. Even like this year on like Michelle Collins, I think your friend Michelle Collins, who I've like obsessed with and listened to every day.
She's fab.
Chris Colfer was like, no, I don't need to like be traumatized. I don't need to talk about her. Like, you know what I mean? Like they all, even
Right.
her, even him, who was her like BFF on the show, they all have horrible, horrible things to say. And every new character that would come on, she would like haze, allegedly, like according to like the gossip columns, that she would
that's
like
our next podcast. It's just gonna be, what did Lea Michele do
Michelle
to you?
do it to
And
you
it's
on
gonna
Glee.
be- we're gonna have a 44 episode
well, there's a
commitment.
million people in her wake. We could have a
Well,
podcast
yeah.
forever.
But see,
that's
her fall from grace is rather Giuliani in scale to me.
Yes,
because
correct.
she was the lead on a hit television show, like what would be like her gradual ascension. Like if you're
And
going to go
not-
from stage to TV, that's the way to do it. And you know, the show's a hit, and then you know, at least in the pop culture sphere, sure, it fades away like other shows do, but then she loses the love of her life. You know, she has the sympathy of the world when Corey Monteith passes away. And you would think, who, you know, she's a talent. Her show got canceled. She lost her man. Like, this is someone who's only going to have a comeback story. And then rather than have, you know, years of sympathy, these stories just start dribbling out, and each one is just worse than the last. And there was a moment where I just thought to myself, how is this happening to Lea Michele? Like, we were devastated for her 5 minutes ago, and now she is a pariah. And that's why she reminds me of Rudy Giuliani, because I'm like, you were America's mayor in 2001. How are you the village idiot now? Like, what the hell happened?
There's a difference though, because Giuliani would be like, is basically shitting in all of our shoes like every month. Lea Michele, it's all hearsay, you know? And like, I'm not saying I don't believe it. I mean, there's a reason Jane Lynch was, when Lea said she was coming in a month early, Jane Lynch was like, take my vacation.
Yeah, like, I'm out of here. I'm out of here. Yeah.
And she wasn't like talking shit. Jane Lynch was like, I wish her the best. We're great buddies. But she was like, taxi.
Well, the one thing Lea Michele and Giuliani have in common is that they've both murdered the homeless, I think. So that is at least one congruency.
They're both picking broken glass out of their hair. Like, I think that, you know, also the Lea Michele stuff, it also has to do with timing. Like that all was it's like, not that it's the same thing as the Me Too movement, but just kind of like our culture just sort of like opening its ear towards like, hey, like it's actually kind of fucked up the way people have to be treated just because someone else is higher than them on the call sheet.
Mhm.
And like that sort of moment in time, the Lea stuff was all coming out like right in that thing. And so I think that she a little bit kind of became like an easy punching bag. Not that it's unfair, but I just think that like she's just sort of a convenient,
Well, when there's
person.
so many stories, it's easy to be like, look at this monster. Whenever every single one of your co-hosts or scene partners is like, she's a monster.
But it's also because she's a woman. I think
Yeah.
like men get away with shit like she did
100%.
and worse.
100%.
Although, like I'm sure Barbara Streisand's a nightmare to work with. I don't think that's sexist. I think that's probably just like fact.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
like I think Lea Michele is like not for nothing, like a good sort of like, junior version of that.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't
Well,
know that, Barbara Streisand would never look at Jeff Bridges and say, I'm going to shit in your wig on the set of Mirror Has Two Faces, though.
I don't know that she wouldn't.
Come on. That's
She's
Well,
like,
by the
go.
time- By the time of the Mirror Two Faces, Barbara, like every molecule in the universe anywhere near Barbara Streisand was like written, directed, conceived, and approved by Miss Streisand. But back in the day when she was like a little pisher like Lea, Barbara had to go through her own antics to get what she wanted. And, there's an amazing, I think it's Los Angeles Magazine article from one of the screenwriters that was like hired on A Star Is Born, like the Barbara Streisand Star Is Born. And it's like absolutely horrifying the way she behaved and the way she treated people and what went down on that set for like months. And she was a much bigger star then in A Star Is Born than Lea ever has been or ever will be.
True.
Well, speaking of the two of them, I remember that when Glee was like taking off and becoming super famous, Barbara was toying with the idea of doing a remake of a cinematic remake of Gypsy, my personal favorite musical of all time.
Yes.
And it was rumored, and I remember reading this on like Perez Hilton and like all those like blog, like before we have now just like Instagram accounts like that are fans of things. Like whenever Perez Hilton was still like where you got all your pop culture news, it was like Lea Michele was like shoe in to be like Gypsy Rose Lee.
But Barbara chose Gaga, right?
And Barbara was going to be Rose.
Right.
But Barbara chose Gaga for
but it never happened.
But Barbara had an Instagram pic of herself, John Travolta, Ryan Murphy, Lady Gaga, and I think I'm forgetting somebody else. She wrote like A Wonderful Evening at Home. Oh, and John Travolta. And Kelly Preston, who was just there with John. But Ryan was, going to produce, and Barbara was going to direct and star as
Travolta was going to play Rose, right? In this production.
Yeah. Nobody wants him in that.
She has in her basement, I'll tell you that.
Yeah. Wayo.
He was going to be her quote unquote husband. And or whatever Herbie is, the manager, but that she has the affair with.
Right.
And Gaga was going to be, Gypsy Rose Lee. Maybe Lea was under consideration too. I never would have believed that, because if you remember, the Kennedy Center honors Barbara Streisand. She doesn't like anybody, even anywhere in her lane, even if they're like Lea Michele is so nothing compared to Barbara. But like when Idina Menzel was like singing like, "Hey, Miss Streisand, here I am," Barbara looked like she just smelled a fart. And then when Beyonce was singing The Way We Were, Barbara was like, like butter. And like, Beyonce was better than Idina Menzel was that night, at least. But it wasn't just that. It was like, yes, a number one pop star. That's who should pay tribute to me, not this girl from the show. Like, because to Barbara, truthfully, in reality, but at least to Barbara, Idina Menzel is just a second or third rate Barbara Streisand. And really, Lea Michele is like a second or third rate Idina Menzel.
Slam.
It is Slam City.
This Slam City. We're in Slam City. We live in Slam City now. But all this to say is that I remember it being like rumored Lea Michele is going to be, I'm sure that's not what it actually was, but like it was a thing where she was going to have that role, or like was rumored for that role. And then a lot of the people were saying like, but they're nervous because she's like so difficult and like there's already like Barbara. So what's going to happen?
See, that's
like,
funny because I would think that she wouldn't be difficult in that scenario because she would be like, yes, Miss Streisand,
yes,
thank you,
yes.
Miss Streisand.
Yeah, like truly.
Barbara never
was,
went to see Funny Girl, right? She's never been.
Who
Why
knows?
would she?
Barbara lies. Like Barbara says she never saw Gypsy on Broadway, but then I've also heard from inside sources that she saw all the Gypsies on Broadway.
Even when Patty was in it.
Yeah, even when Patty was in it. But honestly, like I feel like bad shit can happen to everybody. Like
Sure.
I feel like for her to be successful, it's not that she needs no bad shit to happen. It's that she needs more shit to happen so that a mixed in with the bad is more good.
Well, that's what I'm saying is like she had these opportunities that were supposed to be these big, huge like rises that were going to even be like bigger than Glee. And then it just like every single one of them falls. Like if Barbara and her were in Gypsy together, we would all be like dying. Like we would be loving it. Like I get that you're saying that other people would be better at it, but like it would be a big fucking deal to like gay America that they were being 100%. The main characters in Gypsy in a movie.
Yeah. And whatever happened, they just couldn't get it together, right? Because Barbara
was like, I don't want to work. She was like, what am I doing this for?
No. Barbara wanted to do it and probably still says she's doing it. But the studios wouldn't give Barbara the money for this enormous production that she would like direct and star in. And then she was going to have somebody else direct it, but she didn't like that idea really of not being in control.
Sure.
And
what a missed opportunity.
But isn't it a missed opportunity? Barbara's 80.
Yeah, now.
She's 70 then. That's not, the woman is supposed to be a mother with young daughters.
I know, but isn't this the same issue we're having with, isn't Glenn Close still doing the movie version of Sunset Boulevard?
Glenn Close should be shot in the street and get away from that musical.
Oh my God.
But anyway, the age is not the problem. The age is not the problem with Sunset Boulevard. I would buy a Norma Desmond, a gargoyle, any age. That's fine. Glenn Close
off the rails.
Like an old dad. So what's the difference?
We are in the stratosphere, officially in the stratosphere. This is the most explosive episode of this podcast we've ever had. Wow. She should be shot in the street.
You rarely meet a homosexual who will call for the death of Glenn Close.
I love Glenn Close, but I want her to get the fuck away from musical theater. She is tone deaf. And on top of the fact that she's tone deaf, her interpretation of Norma Desmond is like a cartoonish loon. I would rather see Bianca Del Rio do it than Glenn Close. That musical is a long 2.5 hour slog. It needs a performance with heart and nuance. Otherwise, it gets boring.
Well, if you see the version where Glenn does 11 curtain calls, it's actually 3 hours and 15 minutes.
It's 11 curtain calls because the audience is like, oh my God, it's Glenn Close. Oh my God, it's Glenn Close. Oh my God, it's Glenn Close.
I'm on a loop for 11 minutes.
Yeah. Speaking of insane
and they paid $300 a piece. I mean, Broadway is just an event at this point. It's not about anything else.
Yeah. So all this to say, she loses. She did a Zola commercial that didn't pan out well for her. She had albums. Those didn't pan out for her either. No one cared about her own original music. She didn't really. They didn't. No one cared. Did she ever have a hit? No.
I wouldn't
know.
know.
Because she got wrapped up in Me Too. I mean, all these revelations came out as part of Me Too because it wasn't. There were moments during the Me Too movement where it wasn't just about workplace harassment and sexual assault. It ended up turning into a thing about kindness in the workplace, and anyone who acted like an asshole repeatedly was exposed, and she was sort of at the nucleus of that, and certainly like maybe the most famous female wrapped up in these accusations. You know what I mean? I mean, people were saying horrible things about her, and it was just. The problem was that there was no safe space for her with the cast. No one came forward and said, I understand she was in a bad mood. Everyone was just like, she's a cunt from Crafty to the cast party. She was just horrible. Everybody.
She's like, but Jonathan Groff liked me. He was like recurring.
Right.
And then, okay, so she does all these other things. It doesn't really work. Her reputation gets dragged through the mud. Then on the internet, someone starts this like rumor that she doesn't know how to read. Or either do aware of this.
That's my favorite thing about her.
So like, there's all these pictures
so
of her like
silly.
holding books and like. And it's like holding books and like her like them being like she has no idea what this says. Like, do you know what I mean? Like they like all these things of her like reading a newspaper and then being like she's pretending. Like, and it's just so hilarious. And she eventually, I think, recently just started like to like be like, haha, if I could only read this or something like on Twitter.
At the Tony Awards, she had a
and
great,
it's been
had a
like
great turn about
years.
it.
Oh, what did she say?
I wish I could remember, but she said something really funny on the Tony Awards acknowledging that in a really smart, I'm sure someone wrote it for her, but she read it. But it was really, she made a really funny, joke about that whole thing. And it was great.
She basically like only recently started like making jokes about it herself, which I said was like a year and a half too long. Like she should have been making this joke like immediately upon it coming on the internet.
She was probably learning to read during that time. That's why it took her so long to write shit down.
Well, she can't read. She wasn't aware of the meme.
Yeah, you're correct. You're right.
She thought they were just cute pictures of her with books.
Guys,
that's why she was lashing out at everybody. She was mad that she couldn't read the scripts on Glee.
So then, I mean, as we all know, like Beanie Feldstein doesn't do the job at being Fanny Bryce as we thought that she would, and then they basically
excuse me. Beanie Feldstein did precisely the job that I knew she would.
Oh, slam. I was trying to give her the benefit.
You're just here to drop bombs. This is like
No,
Oppenheimer.
Fuck that. That is white privilege in action, what Beanie Feldstein did on that stage. I've never been so offended.
When I said like way to set someone up for failure. Like she doesn't have most people, let alone her, don't have the singing ability to even remotely be considered for this.
There's only a certain percentage of actual professional singers who could pull off,
could actually do it.
Character. There's no doubt. It was written for somebody who sings that perfectly. That's why it was the marriage between role and star at its inception. I saw Beanie Feldstein, and what I will say is this. Thank God it's over. No, what I will say is that she was funny as an actress.
No, she was fine. She was cutesy. She did that same fucking like fat girl pushing her hair awkwardly behind her ear, kind of insecure, nervous humor that she does that was totally wrong for the character. It like sort of kind of worked in Hello Dolly in that tertiary role, but it was a fucking weak choice. And the singing is obviously hideous and didn't belong and was worse. But you know what? I understand their choice casting a bad singer in the role. I get them being like, no one will ever be Streisand. We're never going to be able to equal that. What we need is somebody that's original and funny and can make it their own. Because that's what's going to carry the story. Someone like a young Jackie Hoffman or something, I get that, but that's not what Beanie is. Beanie is like a great film and television, like sort of dramedy, like, she belongs in the same kind of projects like her brother is in. And she's been good in all those things. She's a good, awkward, funny weirdo. She's good in that vampire series, She's been good in everything she's done on screen. I liked her as Monica Lewinsky. She's exactly the kind of like spoiled little like Jewish girl like that Monica Lewinsky was, sort of just like clueless in the world, and she was perfect in that role. And I found her moving and charming. But on Broadway musical stage, she doesn't really have the persona. Even in that small part in Hello Dolly, she wasn't great. And then she was just flailing in Funny Girl.
Well, I still maintain that there were funny moments from Beanie. I'm afraid to say it further because Ben has already
screamed at us many times.
Close with death. So I don't know what he'd do to an unknown like myself. I'll just die. No one will find me.
I feel sorry for you. I feel sorry for you. You're like an abused child. You're like, no, because like I know Daddy beat us on Saturday night, but like on Sunday he took us for ice cream and like he had double scoop.
I thought that she was.
Beanie's not a moron. Beanie is a talented actress of screen, and so there's good lines in that comedic script like punched up by Harvey Fierstein. She didn't just ruin everything. It wasn't just like it was read by Siri.
I thought I Am the Greatest Star was a very cute number.
A cute number. It's supposed to blow your brains out.
But it didn't. It was just a cute number. It did not blow my, she did not blow
It's
my
not like
brains
your
out.
niece's recital in Westchester. Oh, it's a cute number. It's supposed to be like the fucking like opening, establishing like barn burner for the star playing Fanny Bryce on Broadway.
Oh, Lord in heaven. What are we going to do?
I feel worse for her now than I did before.
So all that, okay, I'm moving on from
I'm
Britney
still
Felton.
so angry at her because she should have known. She should have known she didn't have the chops.
She
for
didn't
that.
care. She didn't care. She wanted to get that.
She
fucking
regrets
check
it now.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sure.
Beanie Feldstein, you know, is like, I got to get out of here.
Murdered by Lea Michele.
Murdered by Lea Michele. And then they are like, Lea, we know that you know every single word of this musical. Like,
she's like a dog behind a fence.
Yes.
They're like, just let her out and do the show.
They're like, can you be here in 25 minutes? And she's like, I'm already on my way. You know what I mean?
She's
and then
literally in the dressing room.
Basically the next day she like got on the stage and started performing. And to much applause, people really, and you are right. It's like, she needed to do it as like, I'm going to save the show. And like, even though you all hate me, you can't deny how good of like how talented of a person I am and that I'm born for the stage and I have a resume that is worthy of this role. And I'm going to show you all that right now.
And she did. She really did not. I cannot imagine the pressure she must have felt that first night. I really can't. I mean, knowing how badly so many people want for her to fail.
Yeah.
And she didn't.
That's the magic of Broadway.
Yeah, and they recouped their money because she was in it. I was doing a little research because I didn't remember when all of the bad shit about her started leaking out, and I didn't realize that when George Floyd was murdered by police, she expressed her support for him and the Black Lives Matter movement online. I'm getting this from a Distractify article. And she originally received praise for her statement about George Floyd, but this was the moment when her former Glee co-star,
they all were like,
Samantha Ware, was like,
yeah.
She's like, no. And then just in response to Lea Michele showing support for George Floyd, Samantha Ware said that Lea made everyone's time on Glee, specifically her, a living hell. And it almost made her quit acting. You know, there were many allegations, but one culminating that Lea Michele told another classmate that she wanted to shit in Samantha Ware's wig.
Dear God.
Yep. So when she made her Funny Girl debut in September of last year, only one of her Glee co-stars went to see her perform, and that was Jonathan Groff. And
recurring on Glee.
Right. So barely on Glee, and also
no
already
one
her
in
friend.
The regular cast alive went to her show.
Also, like, only on Glee because she was like, you better fucking put Jonathan Groff. Like, he needs to be my love interest. He's my best friend. Everyone will love this. Like, you better have him on the show.
Yes. Like we said then recently, well, not recently, but I guess it was in last October, Chris Colfer was on the Michelle Collins show. And that was when Chris brought up all this stuff again a month after she opened to raves on Broadway. When he was asked if he would go see Lea on Broadway, he said, no, I could be triggered at home.
Yeah.
Slam.
I mean,
wow, what a great slam. I think we should get to the pitches.
I think it's time to try to fix.
I had a pitch that was going to be Lea Michele coming back and playing all these iconic roles on Broadway, like Louise and Gypsy, Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz, and like just like doing all these things to like reclaim like how good of a person she is. And then Ben just absolutely destroyed how that she's not that good of a singer and like anything through this entire episode. So I don't want to, I'm pivoting away from that. And what she is going to do, there's a problem in America, and that problem is reading.
Oh my God.
But this isn't even a joke. The way that we teach kids to read in America nowadays does not work and is not right. And the reason that we teach them this is because a company has like pumped millions of dollars into the government to like use their method, and it doesn't work. Hooked on Phonics, what I learned when I was a kid, kaput. They use some other way now where they just guess words, and it doesn't work. I listened to a whole podcast on it. It's really bad. And the reason that anyone knows any of this now is because parents in COVID were like realizing that their kids weren't learning how to read and were listening to the lessons and being like, this doesn't make any fucking sense. So Lea Michele is going to revamp a hooked on phonics type method with streamable videos that you're going to watch her and a room full of children read books and learn the different sounds that are like different parts of words make.
They'll be learning together.
She will 9 million times like reference like we're all learning, and like there will be a wink and a nod to the camera along the way. And she's gonna get like Rachel Berry at these kids sometimes, and it's gonna be very fucking funny. And even people like us are gonna buy them just to watch her be a cunt to like a 12-year-old and like yell at them. And she is going to just revolutionize reading, save the children of America by teaching them how to properly read so that our country can be smarter and not fucking idiots. And she's never going to get the fame that she wants just from being a performer, because she would have just, despite all of how horrible she is apparently behind the scenes, like she would have just gotten a bunch of really good roles. And so it's not happening for her in this way. She did Funny Girl, and still like where the roles aren't rolling in. Like we should have heard by now that there's like press that she's going to do A, B, and C movie. Other than being, you know what I mean? She's not doing that. She is going to teach America's children how to read. And that is my pitch.
Lea Michele. I am a big fan of leaning into the shit that got you in trouble. You're already doing that. You've already, made little cracks at the Tonys about not being able to read and all that stuff. That's good. You have a sense of humor. That's great. You've played your dream role. We all knew this, and now here you are, and all anyone else is saying after that is, well, now what? Like there's no obvious path. Like you've done the thing you've always wanted to do, and now you find yourself with nothing to do because your reputation is sort of shitty. And we know that you're super talented on top of it. So what are we going to do? Well, we're going to refocus our entire career, Lea, to take roles where people are, in a strange way, enjoying your entertainment, but also seeing revenge exacted on you by the people who would have that. I'm talking about Lea Michele and Chris Colfer starring in a Broadway production of Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf as George and Martha. I'm talking about Lea Michele and Amber Ware. I'm talking about Lea Michele and Samantha Ware starring in a stage production of Whatever Happened to Baby Jane with Lea as Blanche, and Samantha Ware just beats the shit out of her every 15 minutes. So we would see the revenge being exacted in the physical way that our animal minds need it, and we would also be entertained as well. Amber Riley and Lea Michele in a physical contact version of The Odd Couple, where Felix and Oscar, instead of witticisms, they just throw punches at each other. And this is, everyone who has an axe to grind with Lea Michele gets cast opposite her on Broadway. Since she eclipsed so many of them on Glee, she will now pull them up to her level where they can entertain with her while also beating her. It's a little clunky. It's not my favorite pitch of mine, but the thought of seeing Samantha Ware punch Lea Michele while she's in a wheelchair, I think means that I should have the winning idea. But Ben, this is in your hands.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah,
That's
I'm
my
sorry.
pitch.
I have no notes. I think Dominick absolutely has
I
solved
knew
the problem.
what I mean, of course. How could you pass that up?
I think, this really ticks all the boxes. And I love what you said about she helps them, because like some of these people from Glee are so talented, arguably as talented as Lea, if not more, and yet they're out of work. And here they get to star on Broadway in something that's high profile because Lea is in it.
But it also lends itself to like, this is what people want now out of theater, is like there's some backstory, that like there's drama. Like everyone ran to Funny Girl with Lea Michele not because it like was Lea Michele and Funny Girl. They wanted to be there for whenever she like destroyed it and like they could be like, she was so much better than Beanie Feldstein. It's just like how everything else now, where everything has to be a competition, or there has to be some kind of like, what was the movie with Olivia Wilde? Don't Worry, Darling. There has to be some kind of like Don't Worry, Darling style, like drama behind the scenes for them to like be interested in it. And
Well,
it's
it
like,
also
this is
makes
just
it meta.
Yes.
I mean, then you are watching something real happen. Like,
Yes.
Leah's pretending to be Fanny Bryce trying to make it on the Ziegfeld Follies. But in real life, Lea Michele is desperately cleaving her way to Broadway stardom. And that is like a real event, as opposed to Beanie Feldstein, who was like in her school play.
Slam.
Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot. She didn't get the part in her school play.
Wow. Slam.
Slam within a slam.
Yeah, wow.
It's like the Russian doll of slams.
Yeah.
Ben's giving us all of it.
Oh, Dominick, you deserved this win. That was a beautiful pitch. I know you said that you didn't like it, but it's
I'm happy
beautiful.
to have survived this podcast with Ben as a guest, considering all of the violence that he is.
You're the one that's literally promoting violence on stage.
I literally am doing that, but for art. You having Glenn Close shot in the street is not something
for
that we're
art.
shooting.
Yes, it is for art. We will all be the better.
Oh my God.
Anyway, that was an ultimatum. Shot in the street if. She has the choice to make to not do Sunset Boulevard. Frankly, it doesn't look like anyone's banging down her door to make it happen at this point.
I know, but every time she's on a red carpet, someone brings it up and she's like, we're getting there. And it's just...
It's like Barbara with that Gypsy movie for years. It ain't gonna happen.
We need the age-appropriate person to play the male lead opposite Glenn Close would have to be Clint Eastwood at this point. Like, it's not going to be. It's not going to be. Who's gonna play the William Holden role? Zac Efron? Like, it's not.
Well, it's supposed to be an age gap.
Yeah, but that's like a 60-year age gap.
Well, Zac Efron's got to be like pushing 40.
He probably is. He looks different now, though.
Glenn Close is like what, like 75?
Glenn, I do think it. Hey Siri, how old is Glenn Close?
Glenn Close is 76 years old.
Oh, 76.
I was close.
All right. Yeah, yes, you were.
Close.
So is she.
Glenn Close, but no cigar.
Dear God.
That's one of the best lines from the original Will and Grace. I was so close. I was Glenn Close.
Ben, this has been an absolute whirlwind. Where can people find you?
They can find me at Ben Rimalower across all platforms, including Threads, but not X.
And where can they find your podcast? Tell us what it is.
It is on Broadway Podcast Network, on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all those other places y'all get your podcasts.
Dominick, where can people find you?
My website's domentary.com and the socials are at Dominick Pupa. Chris, I have a question for you. Where can they find you? The people, of course. Where can
you're so stupid. You can find me at the Chris DeRosa. You can find the show at Fixing Famous People. Write a review and let us know who you want us to fix next. I wish you both well. And as always, where is Shelley? Goodbye.